Here's the assembly process for the lounger. You'll need a pencil, tape measure, 3/8 wrench, cordless drill, and the rest of everything is in the bag. There's some 2 wood block spacers for the slats, Allen wrench for the bolts, small bag with the slat screws, and the rest of the fasteners are in the bottom. There's 2 longer shoulder bolts and 4 shorter ones. Four longer screws and a driver bit for the screws. You can take your nuts and washers off of the bolts. And take part A. Is countersunk on the outsides of 2 of the 3 holes. So you're going to insert the bolts from that outside so the head fits inside, nice and underneath the wood surface. And you can do both using the 4 shorter bolts. And then take part C and D. The legs, there's 2 sets of shorts, 2 sets of long ones. These do have a left and a right. You're going to use the shorter ones near the end and the longer ones near the square block and short block. So when you install these, the legs, all 4 of them have a countersunk side on one hole and a non-countersunk, just flush drilled. So you're going to want to insert them so they match the profile of the longer leg. And make sure that that countersunk faces the same side, same direction as the countersunk on here. So in this scenario that I've got laid out, the countersunk side of the legs will be facing down. So make sure that they both match the curve and not opposite curves like that. And you can put a washer and just start the nut on there so it doesn't fall off. And the same thing with the longer legs. You're going to insert them so the countersunk is facing down. And then you can take your wrench and Allen key on the bolt head and tighten those up. take legs B and attach them to the outsides of legs A. There is a left and a right for these as well. One side is countersunk and the other side is not. So you're going to want that countersunk facing the same direction as the countersunk in part A. So they're all facing out. And then insert the longer bolts through and through. Your washers and then the nut on. And tighten those. Now we're going to join the two sides with the cross braces in between these legs. It's going to fit there. So you want to make sure you got these orientated properly so these folding legs are to the inside of the assemblies and not like this. Just do one at a time. Take your 2 of the 4 longer screws. Just insert those through the countersunk of D legs. Now you're going to want to get this cross brace close and then just look at it from horizontally and try and align the center of this screw, or the center of this cross brace to the screw, and then stand directly over top and try and again line the center of the cross brace to the screw that way. So you're going to align it forward and back and up and down just by looking straight up and down and horizontally. If you have these just so they're not quite poking through, is the easiest, so you don't have to shift this around too much once you get it lined up properly. And as long as it's sitting in the countersunk, that's perfect. You don't want to over tighten these. It's into the end grain of this cross brace is very easy to strip it out if you over tighten those. Now get it both assemblies sitting so the cross brace sort of sits there on its own, so you know you're at the right distance that way. Now, using these to represent the two sides, you want to do your best to get them on an even plane, left to right. This is an exaggeration, but you don't want them sitting staggered like that either way. So you can use a slat against the flat surface on each side and try and get them as close as you can. So there's even contact on each side. want to have both legs wide open. Just give them a hard pull against the stopper blocks, because you're going to be linking these two together. You want them to be at the same position. And again, you don't want to shift this around too much because they're set against the stopper blocks. But once you've got it centered, and I'll do the other side. Same exact method. Make sure they're both sitting wide open against their stopper blocks when you attach the second side. Might have to hold it down, hold some pressure down on it. And we'll flip it around. Fold the legs in. And we'll use a slat again, just to extend this flat surface of the round ends. We want to just extend that up so we have an easier place to measure from. Basically gonna measure 2 inches up this side on the outside of the leg. Just holding this slat against the flat surface. It's gonna be a bit angled out, but as long as it's sitting against that flat surface. Just want a light little mark. Now on to step 7. You can fold those in. There are 3 different types of slats. They're all the same dimensions, same width, same length, but they just have different holes drilled onto them. So there's 10 that have the holes near the end. There's 10 that have them part way down, about 1.25 inches in. And then there's one single that has it much further than the rest. They're very easy to tell once you put them next to each other, which are which. And for this, we're going to use the slats with the holes near the end. So open up the small bag of screws. I always like to get my screws partially started so there's no fumbling around. We've got them to the right spot, and we're going to just use our pencil line against this edge as a starting point for the very first one. And just use your fingers along the outside edges to make sure you're centered left to right against this under. And attach your first one completely. And then these spacer blocks with the arrows pointed towards the last slat you just put on, and your next one's going to go on. I like to label the slats out. Just to see what colors and shades there are in there, so I can get a good contrast. I prefer a contrast to my layouts. If you prefer starting light, moving to dark, or however you want to put them on. And just hold them, kind of butt them up to your spacer blocks. And again, use your fingers along the edges to make sure you're sitting even left to right. Move your blocks up and continue on. Now I can flip it over. And we're going to measure 2 inches again from the end. However you can, it's much easier with 2 people for this part, but it's, if you wanted to use a couple slats to stack up, and that's very easy to just hold that tall slat against flat of it and measure 2 inches. This time we're going to be drilling the slats into this middle piece. We're going to use the other 10. The hole's about 1.25 inches in. And again, using this edge along your pencil line as your starting point. And again, center it with your fingers along the bottom surface to make sure you're even on each side. And then use the spacers again. And finish off the rest. loosen it up. Open your legs up and flip it over so it's on its legs. Now onto the headrest. Last step. You're going to insert these two arms into the slot. And it's fine if they don't touch the stopper block at the bottom, just as long as they're even each side. So one isn't sticking way up in the air and one isn't way further down. And you're going to attach this bar through the countersunk holes up into those arms on each side. So you just want to rest this on these little blocks. And just give those arms a little squeeze to the outside so you know they're sitting flush out there. And then come around to the front of it. And then come around to the front of those arms and use those spacer blocks again. Using the skinny headrest slat. Just use your fingers along the sides to get it centered left to right. We're going to attach it to those arms. When we do that, just reach underneath and just hold that arm tight. Squeeze that arm tight to the outside. For both sides. Again, reach underneath and hold it tight. And then the last widest slat on top. Get it centered left to right. Use the spacer blocks. And that's it. Headrest should slide in and out.